Today, I'm going to talk about a book. I'm going to do a book review. The title of the book is You Don't Know Crazy, My Life Before, During, After, Above, and Beyond Mental Illness. The author is Wambui Bahati. I am Wambui Bahati. Now, I know there are probably some minds out there saying, what? She's going to review her own book? Who does that? And I'd have to say, well, I guess I do, because I want to talk about this book. This book was originally published in 2008. And here today in 2019, I believe that this book is still relevant. I believe that this book can still help a lot of people. I believe that if you've been diagnosed with a mental illness, or you're dealing with the mental health system, you're dealing with the trauma, the drama, the stigma that goes along with mental health labeling, I believe this book can help you. I believe that if you have a friend, a neighbor, a co-worker, anybody in your life who is dealing with mental health issues, this book can help you help them, because it's going to give you insight into their world. I also believe that the book can be considered a bit historical, because it is an autobiographical story that deals with my life that begins in 1950 in Greensboro, North Carolina, when Jim Crow laws were still in the book. In fact, one of the stories that I tell in here is about my sister and I, who used to love to go to Woolworths to get chili dogs. And we'd buy their chili dogs and just stand right up there and eat them. It never occurred to me that we should be able to sit down and eat our chili dogs. Not until that day when those four guys from the agricultural and technical college went to Woolworths and sat down. And the rest, they say, is history. So I take you on that journey through the 50s, 60s, and early 70s, the civil rights movements, through my eyes, and how it affected me and my family. One of the reasons that I wanted to write this book is because I overheard people trying to tell my story. Some people were making up stories to tell as my story. Originally, I told my story as a one-woman musical called Balancing Act, the musical. And people would see that show, and some people after the show would say, girl, I want to know what you're not telling. And they would say, well, whatever happened over here? What happened to this? Where was that person? Where did you do after that? Where? And so they wanted details. So I decided to write the book. The prologue to the book is the Social Security letter. It is the letter in its entirety that I received from Social Security Administration. It says, the following is a letter I received from a Social Security Administrative Law Judge in February 1993. The issues in this case are whether the claimant is under a disability as defined by the Social Security Act, and if so, when her disability commenced, etc., etc., etc. And they go on to say the claimant is disabled within the meaning of the Social Security Act and regulations because she meets listing 12.0. So this was to me, the official, this made it official that I was mentally ill because the Social Security Administration office said so. So after the prologue, then we have the introduction. If there was anything that I would change about the book, it would be to make the introduction just a little shorter. But it is in the introduction where I talk about and focus on the mental health system without telling it in a story form. I tell about the system and how it has affected me. I talk about my really low periods. In fact, it is in the introduction that I talk about this keychain. This is a keychain that I made when I was in the hospital, psychiatric hospital in North Carolina one time. And I remember how difficult it was. All it is a piece of wood with some cutout flowers, 2 flowers cut out from a magazine, glued to this board. Well, to me, that was the most difficult thing to do. I remember that day trying to cut out the flowers. It took me hours to cut out the flowers, and then there was some frustration in trying to glue it to this piece of wood. But I've always kept this keychain because this keychain is a reminder of where I was, and thank God where I am right now. After the introduction is when I go into the chapters where I start telling the story. I tried to keep it in chronological order and I broke it down into really, really short chapters because I wanted it to flow faster. I had the font is pretty big. I wanted the font big. I wanted the story to flow. I wanted it to be easy to read. There are no curse words in here. I don't talk like that. I'm just telling my story. I tell things that in a respectful way, the things that could get a little seedy, I try to tell them in a very respectful way. Let's see, I'm going to read some of the titles of the chapters. Now, there are lots and lots of chapters, so I'm just going to read some of the ones in the beginning. And the chapter names are this. We got Down Home, God and Me, Segregation, Daddy, Summertime, We Shall Overcome, Me, Nervous, A Star is Born, $100 please, Tips Are a Good Thing, Groovin', Girl, You Better Straighten Your Hair, New York City, He Wasn't a Stranger, Winter Angel, I'm Feeling Nothing, Hollywood, Sister Fun, Day by Day, and then there are just so many chapters because it's broken down. The chapters are short because it helps, I believe, to make the book flow faster. So, and then after we tell the stories, some of the stories are really funny. This is the book that I wish that I'd had when I was at my lowest and when I was dealing with the mental health system and I was ashamed and depressed and angry. I wish that I'd had this book to read. Some of the things in here are very humorous, even though we're dealing with a serious topic. I'm going to read a little bit of what is on the back here. It says Wambui Bahati, aka John and Washington. I also in the book talk about my names and where my Wambui Bahati, how I became officially and legally Wambui Bahati, shares a powerful, personal and important story about mental illness, self-esteem, self-love, and courage. She was born and raised in the segregated South during the 1950s and 60s and has sprinkled the narrative with significant national historical events and how they personally affected her life. She invites us in for a behind-the-scenes look at her years as an actress on Broadway and in national touring shows. At times, hilariously funny, and always relentlessly honest, You Don't Know Crazy presents an intelligent, informative portrayal of bipolar disorder and its effects on Bahati's self-esteem, career, relationships, and day-to-day coping. So I highly recommend this book. This book is You Don't Know Crazy, My Life Before, During, After, Above, and Beyond Mental Illness.